This is my plan to become as athletic as humanly possible. I play American football, so I need to be fast, agile, mobile, strong, and powerful. I think athletic training is the best kind of training that you can do because there's a lot of variety which keeps you motivated, and there's a lot of areas that you can improve. I'm already in the process of doing my plan, but I'm going to share it with you guys to help you improve and become more athletic. So step one to becoming as athletic as humanly possible is increasing your relative strength. Relative strength is basically how strong you are relative to your body weight. So the higher your strength relative to your body weight, the more athletic you're going to be. So there are two main ways that we can do this. We can A, get stronger, or B, lose body weight. And when I say lose body weight, I mainly mean lose body fat, because fat is not going to benefit us in any athletic movement. Body fat does not help us produce force in any way. So to lose body fat, what do? We eat in a caloric deficit. It doesn't need to be a massive deficit, only a small one. At the most 500 calories. And you're also going to focus on consuming more protein. Then the other part of the equation is getting stronger. So to get stronger, we need to lift weights. The most basic way to do this is to follow a powerlifting program. The program with exercises focusing on lower rep ranges. So with powerlifting, people typically start at the 5x5, 5 sets, 5 reps. And you can gradually bring this down to maybe 4 sets of 4 reps, 3 sets of 3 reps. And the less reps that you do, the more weight you're going to be able to lift. And the more weight you're able to lift, the stronger you're going to get. In terms of the exercise that we do, we focus on compound movements. So this is focusing on things like the bench press, the bent over row, push and pull movements. And then moving on to the lower body, we're going to focus on things like the deadlift, the squat, single leg squat, Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlifts, working on our hips and our quadriceps. When it comes to being more athletic and more powerful, we need to work on our legs especially, because we're working on our hip extension and knee extension. The exercises that you do are going to be more general strength exercises, but if you play a sport, you can make it more specific. Obviously, if we're in a caloric deficit, it can be a bit more difficult to build strength. So if the opposite is the case and we need to go on a bulk, then we're not going to go on a big bulk. We're going to try and lean bulk. So again, the surplus isn't going to be massive. The surplus maximum is going to be about 500 calories. This way, we're not going to put on excess fat mass and mainly put on muscle mass. So we're putting on mass that's actually going to contribute to our athleticism. And this increase in mass is going to help us to become even stronger. Then moving on to the second phase of our training, we're focusing on becoming more explosive and more powerful. So this is going to be decreasing the intensity of the exercise that we're doing so we can increase the velocity and increase the speed of the movements that we do. I'll try and find a picture of the speed strength continuum, but it simply illustrates the speed at which you're doing a movement correlates with the load. So as the load of a movement drops, the speed of the movement is going to increase. And obviously, the more load you're carrying, the slower the movement is going to be. So after the strength phase, we're going to move on to the explosiveness and power phase. So we're going to bring down that load, bring down the intensity so we can increase the velocity of the movement. In this phase, we're focusing on increasing our rate of force development, how quickly our muscles can fire and contract and produce force. So this phase is nice and simple. You can keep in similar movements like the squat and the bench press and just decrease the load and increase the speed at which you perform the movement. You can add in some specific power exercises as well, like power cleans or snatches. I think adding Olympic lifts is a very good addition because you're forcing yourself to produce force quickly. If you can't produce the force quick enough, then you won't be able to complete the movement. So it's a good way to measure how much force you can produce quickly. Before we move on to the next phase, I just want to mention something that's quite important when it comes to building your overall athleticism, and that is mobility. As we go throughout the whole program, we want to increase our mobility. If you play sports, this is something you especially need to focus on because you're going to need to get into difficult positions. Even if you don't play sports, mobility is still important to focus on because it's going to affect how you move and how you feel. So to ensure that we have good mobility and improve our mobility, we need to perform full range of motion exercises. Full range of motion exercises under load is going to take our joint through the whole range of motion while applying some stress to the joint. So it's going to challenge the stability. To also improve and maintain your mobility, you can go through a mobility routine. Personally, I go through a mobility routine every single week. I'll do a couple of exercises per joint and take the joint through the whole range of motion. So in my routine, I'm working on my ankles, I'm working on my hips, I'm working on my spine, working on my shoulders. Every single joint in my body, I'm going to take it through its full range of motion, applying a little bit of load to it to slightly challenge the stability of the joint. So the next part is arguably the most important when it comes to becoming more athletic. And it's simply doing athletic things. Running, jumping, changing directions. Think about it. When we're children, when we're in our teens and we're at school, we play a lot of sports. We're doing all these things. We're running, we're jumping, we're changing direction. As you get older, we do less and less of this. But this is the key to becoming more athletic. A lot of the athletes that you see have done just this. They've done this over and over again. They haven't stopped. They've continued to run, jump, and play their sport. And I think this is the most important part. Think about it. When you see people that play basketball and the ones that can jump out the gym, the ones that can do the 360 windmill dunks, they're not the biggest guys. They might not be the strongest, but they've constantly played their sport. They've continuously jumped and jumped and jumped. So they've got that exposure, and that exposure has led their bodies to adapt to be able to perform those movements. Personally, in my plan, I make sure I do all these things. I do plyometrics, I sprint. I'm currently in season, so I'm playing my sport. And when it comes to my workouts in the gym, I'm using very light weights so I can focus on high velocity. Again, like I said, with the strength speed continuum, we need to gradually go down as we build strength, build power. Eventually, we're going to get to speed, where everything becomes high velocity. The last part of becoming as athletic as humanly possible can be a bit boring, but it's really important. And it's injury prevention. It's doing the small things. Currently, I'm dealing with a knee injury, so it's going to take a bit longer to become as athletic as I humanly can. But I do understand the importance of this, and I want you to understand it as well, because it can set you back a large amount, especially if you just ignore it and allow it to continue to bother you. You're not going to reach your full potential. So this is something we need to make sure we're on top of. Even if we're not injured, it's something we need to maintain. And injury prevention looks like working on the smaller muscles. So working on the muscles of the feet, working on the muscles of the lower leg, the ones that we typically don't train. Injury prevention also includes working on things like balance, and it also includes doing full range of motion exercises. So mobility and injury prevention tie into one, but they're both still really important. They might not be the meat and potatoes of what's going to make you super athletic, but they're still really important. But if you're on a quest to become as athletic as you can, these are all the things you need to do. You need to get relatively strong, lose any excess body fat, get stronger. You need to become explosive and powerful. Perform movements with max intent at a slightly lower intensity, things such as jump squats and power cleans. Then finally, we need to perform high velocity movements. Our plyometrics, our sprints, our change of direction, or our sport if we play a sport. Obviously, genetics do play a big part in your athletic potential, but we don't know our genetic potential, so we might as well try. That's all for this video, guys. I hope it helped. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.